Quite a long time ago, when I first started watching anime, I saw the Testament of a Sister New Devil, and I remember despising the show. This is that one show that everyone has, and I know you have it, that you just despise, and you have no idea why it's so popular. If we cut back to now, I was scrolling through Crunchyroll looking for some new stuff to watch, and I saw it. It had a 4.5 star rating, and it had mostly positive reviews, with people saying if you can get past the fan service, the plot's actually really decent. So I decided, what the hell, I might as well give it another chance. So after rewatching it, I discovered that maybe my tastes weren't as bad as they were before, because that show was just goddamn awful. One of the worst things I've ever seen. Now what was I expecting it would be? With a description like, when a pair of sexy girls, Maria and Mio, come to live with high school student Bossa Toji, they have a secret that they do not keep for very long, and his life changes forever. I certainly wasn't expecting it to be some type of fucking magnum opus, but at least something half decent, but instead I got this piece of shit. The plot, my least favourite thing about the show, and something that everyone seemed to think was absolutely marvellous. It turns out that it wasn't. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be exclusively talking about the plot from the first season, as I think that it would take too long to do both of them. I'm also going to try and explain the plot as quickly as possible, because the longer that I take, the more confused that I get, because this plot is just so goddamn convoluted. Now let's jump into it. Okay, so Bossa is living with his dad Sheen, after he's been kicked out of his magical village for being the edgy main character. Now Sheen is about to get remarried, and he only tells Bossa the day Bossa is supposed to meet his two new younger sisters, even though he could have given him a heads up. So Bossa meets his two new younger sisters, Maria and Mio, our other two main characters. They move into a house, and like the default anime dad he is, Sheen goes on a business trip. And the secret that will change Bossa's life forever is revealed when Maria and Mio reveal themselves as demons, and that they actually tricked Bossa's father, and that the person he's getting married to never existed, and that the only one who can stop them is a member from the Hero Clan. Bossa reveals himself as a Hero Clan member and kicks them out. He then brings his father up to ensure that he knew that he wasn't being mind controlled. His dad said that he knew that he wasn't, and that he knew that Maria and Mio were actually demons, and he was getting them to live with Bossa so that Bossa could protect them. We then find out that Maria and Mio are getting attacked by demons, and if Bossa had rung Sheen, 2 minutes later they would have got killed, destroying Sheen's plan. Bossa kills the demons and invites them back in his house, where he then explains to them that he will protect them after finding out that Mio is the next demon lord, and her parents were murdered so that other demons could attain her power. Bossa then starts to go to school with Mio, while Maria protects him from the background. He then meets his childhood friend who hasn't seen in many years, and she's the default character with no personality other than she likes Bossa. He also meets this dude, his only friend and the most obvious villain ever. The next day, Mio is attacked by that villain. Bossa confronts him, gets his ass kicked, and is sent back home. And then Mio goes to fight him by herself. She's losing. Bossa wakes up and gains some magical power that he never had before, and defeats the villain, and then makes a pact with him that he won't go tell the other dude that Mio's powers have awakened, otherwise he'll get in trouble. A deal that could easily be broken by the dude, but somehow the show just overlooks it. The show then has another fan service scene in a pathetic attempt to keep you more interested. After that, Bossa then goes on a date with his childhood friend, where he is then attacked by this thing who looks like he doesn't belong in this universe. He makes Bossa his bitch, and then he is later killed by members of the Hero Clan. We then get introduced to the worst villains in the series. We have the childhood friend's sister, we have this background dude, we have this dude whose eyes are always closed, who talks like he knows Bossa's dad, but it's the same age as Bossa, which then contradicts itself because he's been in prison. We then have this dude whose staff can only attack in one direction. Bossa is then protected by plot armor because they want to fight him in 1 week because they see that he is too weak. Bossa is trained, shows up to the fight with Maria and Mio, and begins to fight. He then beats up his childhood friend's sister and moves on to the main dude. The main dude says how much he hates Bossa. They begin to fight. The main dude loses control of the spear, which then forces them to team up. They defeat the spear monster, and then they become magical friends in 2 seconds, after a little argument, even though they've hated each other for years. Maria then betrays Bossa and Mio and reveals herself as a bad guy. She kidnaps Mio and brings her to what is the most creepiest villain ever, whose only goal is to rape Mio and make her feel pleasure, that she can be his sex slave. Bossa then teams up with the first dude he fought to break into his mansion. They break into the mansion and find Maria. Bossa fights with Maria. After finding out that her mother has been kidnapped, Bossa is like, "It's all good, homeboy, I'm gonna save her," and they team up to fight the rapist. After defeating the rapist, they then save Maria's mother and then go home all happily, where there is a scene where Bossa basically rapes Mio, but the show just glosses over it as love, and that's basically the plot for the first season. Now, in the words of the person who created Horimiya, one of my favorite mangas, it doesn't matter what the plot is or even what the setting is, so long as there are good characters, the series will shine and remain interesting. But unfortunately, these characters aren't interesting at all. They're one-dimensional and have nothing to them. Every character I could describe with one word, which isn't really good because characters need more depth to remain interesting. I'm going to describe the 4 main characters. Let's start off with Basara. He's just your average main character. He has no personality to him other than he is nice, and is really nice to girls. Now this is a common character archetype. A lot of shows have this character so that people who are watching it can view it and imagine themselves in Basara's shoes. I've never really gotten it, but that's just how that character is, so it would be unfair for me to judge him, so I'm going to skip him and go to Mio. Easily my least favorite character, and has no personality other than she's a tsundere. The show tries to give her depth with the depth of her parents, but she's only ever seen as being a bitch, which means you don't care. Also, during the fanservice scenes, she is seen as being innocent as most tsunderes are, and you might think that when she says stop, but when some of her dialogue includes, "Stop it, my chest is warm and lonely," it completely contradicts itself, and she is no longer seen as an innocent character. She is just seen as a slut. Moving on to Maria. Now when I say comedy, you might think of some of the greats, like Billy Cronroy, Jimmy Carr, My Drawings, the plot of Sword Art Online, you know, average funny stuff. Now those are all stuff that makes you want to laugh. Now Maria is obviously paid off as the comedy character, which fails at spectacularly because the only jokes she has ever got are, "Hey Basara, do you like having sex? Do you like sex with Mio? Do you want to have sex with me?" Which isn't very funny. Now sometimes a comedy character can make or break a show, and I think that she breaks it because she has no other jokes in this and they just get stale and old over time. There would be like a professional comedian going up on stage and being like, "Is this thing on? Hey guys, sex," and then the entire crowd bursting out in laughter. Sure, a sex joke might be funny once, but after you just do it 10 times, the entire crowd's gonna get bored and they're gonna want to leave, which is why this show needs more variety in its jokes. Moving on to the final character, Basara's childhood friend. There's not much I can say about her because she's a blank slate. The only character she has is that she likes Basara. She doesn't have any emotions. The show doesn't attempt to give her any depth or personality, meaning that without Basara, she essentially isn't even a character. Now after explaining all of those characters, you may have noticed that you can describe them with one word. Basara's childhood friend being that she likes Basara, Basara being nice guy, Maria being a joke, and Mio being a tsundere, which shows that they have no depth whatsoever to them, and that their character writing is really trashy and faulty. Now, I can't talk about this show without talking about its fan service. Now, a lot of shows have fan service like High School DxD and Monster Musume, and they're often played off as a joke, but this show plays it off very seriously, and during the scenes, it's not uncommon to see Basara have a deadpan face. Now, these fan service scenes can often be compared to literal hentai because it goes way too far, and if you've seen the show, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if we add that with certain scenes that involve maple syrup, soap, and cake, it just comes off as borderline hentai. And if we mix that with the fact that the show cannot decide on Basara and Mio's relationship, it gives us some pretty awkward scenes. In one scene, Basara is Mio's older brother, and the next, he's rubbing her blank, which just makes all the scenes more awkward and confusing when you watch them. And if you were paying attention when I was describing the story, you may have noticed that in between every major plot point there was a fan service scene. Now I'm no genius, but I have a certain feeling that this show was made for a certain demographic, and it plays to that very well, because during scenes that are extremely boring, it'll just add in a fan service scene out of nowhere, so that certain demographic I was talking about doesn't click off and go to a new show, which makes it extremely uncomfortable and just seems like it's been spliced in and it's there just to be there, making everything seem unnatural. Now, since I'm such a kind and understanding person, I went through the liberty of finding some comments, just to see what the general consensus of the show was. I got them from both Funimation and Crunchyroll, so let's just jump into them. Coconut Bean saying that it's a very enjoyable show, but cringy, and that it reminds him of one of his favourite shows, To Love Ru. Got Raffle saying it was an enjoyable ride and you can't wait for season 3. Apparently there's a lot of content for season 3. Blonde Work saying that it was entertainment, but the fan service was a little messed up. Got my least favourite comment by Jake Jenkins Jenkins, saying that it's his best show ever and that he loves a strong character in the modern age. I can obviously tell that this person is not a man of pure taste. Moving on, I finally found some hate comments. Hate comments by Dancer for Life and Fallen Age. Dancer for Life basically just says that he went and had enough dedication to have a look at the manga, and apparently there's armpit licking and it's basically just hentai, and Fallen Age is just saying that it's just trashy hentai for hentai's sake. Well, I'm a weeb, saying that the anime is great and that Mio reminds him of Rias from High School DxD. This person, RobDave22, saying that it's not a copy of High School DxD and it has its own story, which I agree with. High School DxD actually has a good story. Cypher89 saying that it has great potential, and he bases his entire rating on the show on the fact that the character has scars, but I did like his final comment to stop it with the sister shit. Lunas Mal saying that it's fan service done right. I do not agree with that. And moving on, we have Pox saying that it's a superior version of High School DxD, but that's not what bothered me about this comment. What bothered me is the fact that he said that he watched it for the plot, and I always hate it when people say this when they're watching a show like High School DxD with a plot. These shows do not have a plot. The only purpose of them is the anime titties, and when people say that, they're just too ashamed to say that they watched it for the anime titties. They can't be honest with themselves, and it just comes across as very obvious. Moving on, we've got Will Wonk saying that it's his favorite anime ever, and we're going to end this on a positive note with my favorite comment by Monkey. They just say garbage multiple times, and I completely agree with it. It's my favorite comment and it just sums up the show so perfectly. There's no better note which I can end it on. Now time for my rating. I'm gonna rate this show a 2 out of 10. Now would I recommend you watch it? Fuck no. I wouldn't even recommend you go near it, but I ain't gonna stop you. You can watch it if you want. And with that we come to the end of my video. Now if you're one of the people who saw my first video, you may have noticed that I changed a couple things in this video. After some much needed criticism from some friends, I decided to change the entire video completely while keeping this same idea. And I'm also going to delete the old video. So I'll wrap things up now. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to criticize me, leave a comment. If you liked it, leave a comment. And yeah, that's it. Bye.